Welcome back, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston. He is your host, Tyler Britton. Tyler, we just coming off the bye week. There was no Kentucky football this Saturday. Made for quite a long day, especially with my Bengals losing on Sunday again, 1-4 now. It's been a long weekend. Loving to get back into the swing of things. But coming off the bye week, Kentucky football, we're 3-2. Definitely not how we expected to get here, with a very disturbing loss to South Carolina, but then a great win on the road against Ole Miss and narrowly losing to Georgia by 1 point. Give us some of the stats of how we got to this 3-2 record so far this season.
Yeah, Cam, I have no idea what I was doing this past Saturday. I don't remember Saturday at this point. Sunday was pretty good. My Commanders did end up winning, so happy about that. Sorry about your Bengals, but better luck next week, huh? So, but listen, I think this season has been a really interesting year so far. I don't think we expected to be in the position we're at the way we're at. We were expecting to be 3-2, but I think it was supposed to be the other way. Look, I think the Wildcats here started off in an okay spot when they beat Southern Miss. Beating them 31-0 here. We had a decent day overall, 126 yards passing. It was Brock's first game with us. But then I think the unexpected happened here. It almost felt like we crashed against the Gamecocks. We had a really bad day passing the ball. Running wasn't too bad, but we weren't able to get the job done overall. There was a lot of things that we needed to improve on. It really looked like the season was going to be kind of inconsistent. And so far, Hopefully it remains more consistent, because it looks like the next week we came within 1 point of Georgia. There was an opportunity there to steal that win. We came into Ohio University, we beat the brakes off of them, which we expected to do, and then we end up playing Ole Miss as well. Look, everything happened for a reason. Now it feels like we're in a better spot. We're back in a positive 3-2 spot here going into Vandy next week. It's looking promising here, Cam. I think there's definitely some potential with this team. It seems like the team's starting to catch its stride a little bit. Let's hope we can stay consistent throughout the season.
If you would have told me I'm as excited about a 3-2 Kentucky team like I thought they were going to be as I am currently, I don't know what would have happened. I would have thought maybe Brock was, just slinging the ball around. We were running the ball real well or something of that nature. But really, we've won games based off of defense, great special teams, and just being able to do enough offensively to win games. That South Carolina game, I think you saw how we didn't have the full 4 quarters to kind of figure ourselves out against Southern Mississippi. The offensive line was not ready. It seems like we hadn't self-scouted our own team yet. We didn't know what our strengths, what our weaknesses was. So we kind of used all of that, everything we learned from South Carolina, rolled it over into the Georgia week, and we take them to the wire. We lose by 1 point. The loss, it's moral victories, yes, but you play Georgia, the number 1 team in the nation at that point, to 1 point after just getting the brakes beat off of yourself by South Carolina. That was good to see. They come out, like you said, handle business against Ohio, win that game very easily, and then they go down into Oxford and pull off that upset. Ole Miss all offseason has just been talking about the playoff. Well, you threw a wrench in their playoff plans, because now they got to go win a game that they weren't expected to, because they lost a game that they were expected to win. So I'm very excited. I never would have thought going into Vanderbilt I'd be that excited for a Kentucky-Vanderbilt football game. But I'd still like to dive deep into the stats, kind of, figure out how we got here, how we got to this 3-2 record. What can you tell me?
Yeah, why don't we look at, start with the passing game here. We'll start with Brock. Brock's new to our team here. Obviously, we want to see what he could do coming out the gates here. Again, I think we started off kind of a little bit inconsistent those first 2 games, and you kind of hit on it. We didn't play a full football game against Southern Miss. It was kind of a wish-washy game, pun intended there, with all the rain. So I think that put us behind the 8 ball a little bit, but then to go into the Gamecocks, that really set us back. It felt like if we could erase that off our record, everything else seemed like it's ironed itself out. It almost seemed like it was the wake-up call we needed Unfortunately, it was against a team that we didn't need to do it against, so that needed to be the game that we had a win on. Yeah, I think he only had 44 yards passing, but since then he's improved each game after that, which has been positive. That includes the Georgia game, that includes the Ole Miss game. He's shown improvement. He's shown leadership on his team. He's always been this season. He's always shown the ability to run the ball very well. I hate that the stat line doesn't really show his true running skill here. It only shows him for 51 carries, 56 yards. But if you take the sacks out of it, I mean that running play really, or that running game really does speak louder than what the stats show here. And then let's talk about Dane Keys as well. He has 23 receptions, 369 yards. He's averaging about 16 yards a catch as well. The chemistry starting to get there here. I think it's really shown up over the last couple weeks here. I'm looking forward to see how it can really transpire over the course of the rest of the season here, especially with him, Barry and Brown, and a few others on the roster as well. I think there's a lot of talent out there, and it looks like Brock's getting more comfortable with that. So we're excited to see how that can transpire here.
Dane's coming into his own as a receiver one. Coming into the year, Berrien had all the hype because he was the cheat code on College Football 25. He was the deep threat, still is that deep threat. We saw it in the last drive against Ole Miss. That 50-plus yard catch that he got to get us down to where Dane helped us that entire game. He's had back-to-back 100-yard games. Really, him and Berrien were both weren't a factor in the first 3 games for the most part, outside of getting, some garbage time yards with Southern Miss and then, some dink and dunks and stuff like that against Ohio, which is rather easy to do. I mean, these guys are Brock and Dane. They have a great connection going at the moment. Half the yards that Brock's been thrown for the last 2 weeks have been straight to Dane Key. He's a receiver one on this team. You'd love for it to be Berrien because that explosiveness that he has. And at any point he can take any catch, any handoff he gets, any jet sweep, anything. He can take it to the house. But Dane is as reliable as they get right now. He's been everything you can ask for. And seeing Brock steadily improve, steadily get better week over week, finding the strengths and weaknesses of this offense and offensive line. This offensive line's been pretty good running the football. Run blocking has been pretty solid. They just haven't been good at pass protecting. But we're starting to find ways to get around that. I think Bush has done a really good job of scouting his own team, realizing, hey, we just can't do traditional dropbacks. We got to find ways, get Brock out of the pocket, let him roll out, find ways to where they can't just traditionally tee off on us. They can't have their edge rushers just flying upfield. I think for that, Bush deserves a lot of credit. We got to keep seeing the upward trajectory at the moment, but loving everything that I'm seeing from this offense, at least last week. And that says a lot for a team that only scored 20 points. But from where we were at, it feels like they're light years ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think that ties really into our run game. You kind of mentioned that here. I think Brock's been very underrated with this run game of his that he's brought in. You do a quick bootleg and he can turn it into a 15-yard scamper. It's been really impressive. I also think that's a lot of that attributes a lot to our running backs, Demi and Jamarian. They've put up collectively between the two almost 500 yards by themselves. We have a total of 756 yards total in total rush offense, which almost matches our entire passing offense. So, in the world of college football, I think it's important to have a well-balanced offense, especially one that can lean on the run game. We saw it in a couple of games here where we leaned on that run game to really carry us through the game. It's really supported us here. We have 6 touchdowns on the ground compared to 4 in the air here. So I think it's going to carry us, especially against some of these tougher teams. We can go later on in the year when we're playing Texas here. It's going to be very important to have that run game on the ground and running full steam, playing that in so that way we can throw the ball. We can throw some quick screens outside. We can throw across the middle here. Take some pressure off the quarterback and be able to run the ball. So I think we're set up in a good spot overall. Like I said, I think there's a lot of momentum going our way. And then when all else fails here, our run game, our pass game is getting us down the field, and we can have our kicker go out there. I don't know if there's any more reliable kicker at this point in the season. He's 100% on field goals, 100% on extra points. I'm excited to see it because there's not a lot of kickers that can deal with that kind of pressure going into some of these games.
We saw it in the Bengals game. There's stuff goes wrong on special teams all the time. So far, the special teams unit for the Cats has been tremendous. I feel good whenever I see Alex Rayner running onto the field. I'm almost cashing it in as an automatic 3 points. And to say that about a college kicker is kind of crazy. Ole Miss can't say the same. Look at how they were banking from 48 on their kicker, and it didn't work out for them. And then, as well as the special teams, this defense has been phenomenal. Holding Georgia to 13 points and this Ole Miss offense to 17. It's truly incredible what they're doing. They were down Maxwell Hairston last week. I mean, that's a corner one that they're missing. And it was like next man up mentality. If it wasn't for Trey Harris, that Ole Miss offense doesn't really move the ball much. I'm so excited to see how this defense continues to grow. I mean, they got Texas and Tennessee, who both have high-powered offenses. But the offense, at least, has faced more of their most challenging defenses they're going to face with South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Georgia. Those were all three top 10, top 15 units coming into the weeks that Kentucky played them. So maybe it's not the offense is that bad. Maybe it's a result of who they're playing, and they're continuously getting better, as we said. So looking forward to just ride momentum. You can't let Vandy come in here and steal a game from you, and now all of a sudden the fans are out of it again. Nobody wants to come to the game. Right now, Kentucky football has momentum. We got to keep that and ride with it.
I just want to point out, of the 104 points we've scored on offense here, Alex Rayner has scored 44 of them. So that's pretty impressive for the kicker. Our offense needs to step up a little bit, get some more points on the board. I'm not saying that we're perfect there. Obviously, we don't want our kicker having almost half our points there, but it just goes to show that Alex Rayner is the truth here. But look, I mean, let's look at the defense here. You mentioned that our defense has been incredible. I think that's been probably the most consistent part of our entire team. It's really done a good job making sure they put some pressure on the quarterbacks and stopping the run, slowing down the run a little bit. We have 10 sacks on the year. We've taken 63 yards off the field, which has been incredible. We have 4 interceptions and 5 forced fumbles. We'll call a spade here. The first couple weeks we were kind of slow with some of that stuff. We weren't talking about capitalizing it. We were mentioning in the podcast we weren't capitalizing on opportunities. Since the Ohio University game, or I would say really some of the Georgia game too, we've been really starting to capitalize on some of these turnovers here, which is going to set us up for later down the road. I think we can capitalize on those turnovers. We talk about the football games being determined by moments of the game. These will be those moments in the game if we can turn out some more turnovers here on defense. Everything else is falling in place on defense. What are you seeing on defense, Cam?
Deion Walker is one of the best Kentucky defenders we've had outside the name Josh Allen. He's unbelievable. The fact that he's playing as much as he is right now is a true testament to, the work that he's been doing. It's been, a talking point. We've talked about it. Is the conditioning there for Deion? I think he's playing too much. And I know you want your best players on the field all the time. But I'd love to keep him fresh. He only missed 4 snaps against Ole Miss. With how fast that offense moves, he's got to get substituted more. I mean, just pull a Matt Jones and Ole Miss and fake an injury if we need to. This defense, Trayvon Ripka's been great. J.J. Weaver's coming into his own. I mean, 6th year now, finally coming into his own, making impact plays. He's getting held all the time. And the linebackers are incredible. Derek Johnson and Jamin Dumas-Johnson, Derek Jackson, my bad, and Jamin Dumas-Johnson, they've been incredible all season. Having 2 guys up the middle, you want to control the middle of the field. Deion's controlling the front line, and Derek and Jamin Dumas are controlling the middle of the field there. Can't say enough about this defense. They faced 2 potential first-round quarterbacks as well in their first 5 games in Jackson Dart, who was looking like the Heisman frontrunner coming into that game, and Carson Beck, who beat Brock out for that job at Georgia. So, I mean, they've been tested. Now you just got to make sure that they are consistent with Maxwell Hairston out, Stoops said in his presser today he didn't really want to get into the status on Max. I would assume that's not a good thing. Usually you would say, he's got a chance to play, or, we're expecting him to play if he is. I would assume he's out this week. So, again, you need guys like DJ Waller, Hardaway. You need those guys to step up again like they did last week. We're finding ways to win the games right now, even though the offense isn't really pulling its own.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the defense has been good. I think Mark Stoops, that's a staple for Mark Stoops here. So, we'll figure out ways to play good on defense, especially over the next few weeks here as we get into some of these other games. We got Vanderbilt coming up here. Why don't we talk a little bit about that game here? Tell me, what are your thoughts going into next week?
Wow were some of my first thoughts. Vanderbilt just beat Alabama? That's something that doesn't happen. What? Again, I don't want to go back to these baseball references, but this isn't baseball. This isn't Vanderbilt baseball. But somehow, they pulled off the upset, jumped out to an early lead, held on to it throughout the entire game. I was kind of worried that this would be a trap game for Kentucky. They would overlook Vanderbilt like they did 2 years ago. That's what was what I was most worried about. You can't overlook them now. They just beat the number one team in the nation, took down Jalen Milroe, who had just beaten Georgia the week prior. Hopefully, Vanderbilt's players are riding a little bit of a hangover from that game. Hopefully they went with the goalpost down to Broadway and celebrated a little bit too much. But I couldn't believe seeing that. I kept checking it we were recording at the time. I kept checking in on it, and I'm like, man, they're still hanging in there. They're still winning this. They're still leading. Every time I check back, they're still leading. They're still playing well. Honestly, Vandy played a better game of football. Normally those games, it's, a ball bounces the wrong way for Bama. They take care of, But this was, Vandy kind of just dominated that game from start to finish. And I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Could you imagine being in Vanderbilt for that win? Just being part of that crowd that's taking the goalpost down to the river? Going down Broadway with the goalpost, cops behind you, police escort, everybody's moving out of the way. Like, some people are not even watching football. They're just like, what the heck's going on? That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Look, the hype's there, as you mentioned. Vanderbilt's feeling pretty good. Mark Stoops said it best in his press conference earlier today, Cam. He said, hey, look, I finally get to go out to the media and not have to BS the media here about how Vanderbilt is, someone that we have to respect as an opponent. They are a legitimate football team right now. You can't tell me otherwise. They just beat Alabama. There's someone you have to prepare for. I think there's really Kentucky. Luckily for the Kentucky players here, they were sitting at home. They're watching the game. Hopefully, they were taking notes, and now they have a better appreciation for this game. I remember, playing some ball, and there was some teams on the schedule we looked at and we were like, that's a dub. I don't have to worry about that. Hopefully this is a wake-up call. This is an opportunity for some of those players to be like, all right, cool, Vanderbilt's here to play. We're going to go, they're coming to our house. Let's go ahead and make sure that they don't embarrass us. And so they're going to take this serious. And look, they just came off a game where there was a lot of emotion into it. They played a very good game against Ole Miss. Let's keep the momentum up as we go in. Right now we're sitting at 68.3% odds to win. Let's keep that up. It's a 14-point swing. I'm hoping that we can keep maintain that. What's it going to take for us to come out with a dub here on Saturday?
It's keeping their quarterback in check. He's been great. He hasn't had a single turnover all season. We've got to force him into mistakes. You can't allow him to keep riding this high. He's talking about how he has a chip on his shoulder. Go take that chip off his shoulder. Show him why, he is the quarterback at Vanderbilt and not Alabama and not Georgia. Take him down a peg. Right now, this is probably going to be the highlight of his life. So let's take him down now. He's had his moment. This is Kentucky football. We beat Vanderbilt. That's just what we do. We lost to them 2 years ago, and everybody was up in arms. You know why? Because we take care of business against Vandy. That was just abysmal. And people are still talking about it to this day. It kind of shows you the difference in the two programs. And then their tight end had, I think he was 113 yards against Alabama. So just making sure Derek Jackson and Pop Dumas Johnson are ready for that. Know the challenge that the tight end brings in the passing game. It's not often in college football tight ends are involved in the passing game. It's usually one-offs, stuff like that. He's serious. This tight end's good. We just got to keep him in check. I think if we keep those two things in, force a turnover or two, give the ball back to our offense, and play complementary football like we did against Ole Miss, I think we're a 14-point favorite for a reason. But then again, Alabama was 28-point favorites, and they lost. So you still have to take care of business. Doesn't matter what Vegas says. Go into Kroger Field at 7:45, win the game with us watching, and we'll go celebrate afterwards.
Absolutely. Look, you and me are going to be there. We're going to be doing the chant. We're going to be, O-C-A-T-S, cats, cats, cats. We're going to be doing that probably, I would say, the entire game. Hopefully after the game. So if you're not at the game, you got to be at the game because we're going to be there. We're going to be signing autographs. We're going to be signing babies. The whole that nine there. Come find us. Look, I mean, I think that this team's very beatable. And to your point, it very easily could be a trap game. Let's not make it one. I'm looking at the team right now, the running game. I think the running stats are really the most telling here. They're not the best running game we're playing all year here. The running backs are averaging about 3.9, 3.7 yards per carry. Overall, they're averaging about 4 yards a rush here as a team. And one of those is an anomaly with a huge 56-yard run. So I'll drop that down just a little bit. They have 11 touchdowns on the ground. Our defense, I think, will clean that up. I think that the way they've been playing the run well all year. They can slow that down. The quarterback coming in here, like you said, 0 interceptions. He's had 7 sacks all year. They've been playing subpar teams so far, I would say, or minus Alabama.
No, they played Missouri very tight too. Missouri was a top 10 team when they played them.
Yeah, Missouri is starting to show their colors a little bit. I'm not too worried about them. I'm saying subpar overall. I'm going to get chewed out in the comments for that one. But look, 7 sacks on the year. I think our team can produce a little bit more. I think Dion can create havoc. Even if Dion's not getting the sacks, I think there's a couple plays where he just disrupts enough where he rolls that quarterback out. I see Vandy throwing maybe 1 to 2 picks in this game, and that might make the difference in the overall outcome here. That's where I'm seeing it so far. Hopefully it's 1 to 2 picks, or if it's not interceptions, we have 1 or 2 good stops on the run game, maybe a fumble. But I see a couple turnovers coming this way for the Vandy game, which will give a favor here. But I do believe, like you said, Eli Stowers for the tight end for Vandy here. He's the truth. He's going to be on the inside there. He's going to be catching balls over the middle. He's going to be catching balls on the outside. It's going to be tough to shadow him, but our defense, I think, overall will be able to handle him. Again, we've been playing well all year. Let's not slow down because of the Vanderbilt defense. That's how. If they can continue to do what they've been doing when they played Alabama, we're in for a long day. We're going to be in for a long day. That's where the trap game comes into play. I think we can watch the film. We can learn from Alabama. Alabama's sitting at home right now. They're ticked off of themselves. They let a game slip away. Let's learn from their mistakes. We watched it. We had the bye week. We've recouped. Let's go into this game and get the dub.
I think our defense is better than Alabama's. I don't think that's crazy to say by any means. We have to play complementary football to win football games at this time. Offense has got to do enough. Hopefully one day we get to the point where this offense does more than enough and the defense can kind of coast. Hasn't happened yet. I don't want to bank on that to happen either. I have a hard time saying Kentucky's going to cover the spread because 14 points is a lot in an SEC game, especially when they just took down Alabama like they did in convincing fashion as well. I think Kentucky finds a way to win this game. I will say they put up the most points they've put up in the SEC contest so far. I think they'll win this game 27-17, win by 10 points, win by 2 scores. Defense kind of falters. They still have a little bit of that. They've had a big play problem so far this season. That's really been the only thing that you can point to and say you'd want to clean up. but they've also played some of the best offenses in the country. They've already played Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. They've already played Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs. I can't imagine either of these two teams, or either. I can't imagine Vanderbilt bringing up different problems that Georgia and Carson Beck did, or Jackson Dart and Ole Miss. I think Kentucky will handle business. Thankfully, I love that they beat Alabama, because I think it wakes up our team. It tells them, hey, you can't just sleep until 3 p.m. on Saturday, roll out of bed, and come into Kroger Field and beat this team. They're not a rollover team. Wake up, ready to play ball. Let's fire. Let's go.
Absolutely. Look, again, I don't want the team to look ahead here. That's not the point of what this podcast is. We're breaking down the game. But look, I want to look at this game here. We're going to talk about, we've already mentioned that we think that this is a very winnable game for us. Hopefully it's not the trap game of the season. Hopefully that was the Gamecocks game here. And that's it. But let's talk about the rest of the season here. I got Vandy winning, excuse me. Whew, back up. I got Wildcats winning against Vandy here. Puts us at 4-2 here. But why don't we break down the rest of the season, kind of keep our viewers a new pulse check here for what our thoughts for the season here. I got us beating Vandy. Who do you got?
Cats all the way. They look sluggish in some parts of this game, but they find a way to win. Final score prediction for me is going to be 27-17.
27-17. Okay, so you're calling it a 10-point swing instead of a 14-point swing. I'm going to keep it close here. I'm going to keep it 24-17. I'm going to keep it a little bit closer. Our team, against teams that have had a little bit higher competition, we've kept the score down a little bit. So I'm going to say that we keep the score low. Assuming Vandy is indeed the truth here, and they're playing better ball than we expected. So that's going to be my score, 24-17. Why don't you we'll go week by week here for the rest of the season. Who do you got winning at Florida week after?
Yeah, Florida hasn't been good this year like we expected. I think we go in there to the Swamp. It's still a tough place to play no matter how they're playing or how many times they've wanted their coach fired, Billy Napier. We still find a way to go in there. We win. We own that rivalry now. That's what Kentucky does. Kentucky beats Florida. It's our time. They beat us for 20-something years straight. Now it's our turn. And like I predicted at the start of the season, that might be Billy Napier's last game. He might get fired after that game. Kentucky's walking out after that win, and they're 5-2, and you're really starting to see momentum building.
Yeah, I look at Florida, and like you said, they haven't had the greatest year so far. They played some tough teams. They lost to Tennessee. We'll get into Tennessee here in a second. They just came off a win against UCF, but I do see us winning that game too, which would get us to a 5-2 record if we win both these games here. After that, we're playing at home again against Auburn. What do you got for that game?
We got another win for the Cats. Auburn is not very good this year. They've kept it competitive in some games. I think they played Georgia better than I thought they would. I think Kentucky handles business against Auburn. Especially this 3-game stretch here with Vanderbilt, Florida, and Auburn. These are all 3 games that you should win. You're going to be the point favorite in each one of these games. It's just all about taking care of business. Traditionally, Mark Stoops finds a way to lose one of these games. Can't lose one of these games. If we want to take, those records to the next level, bringing in better recruits, taking this program to new heights that we haven't seen, you've got to win those games that you're expected to win. I think Kentucky handles business. I think they're finally starting to get past those stages of, fumbling in the prime time. I think they're 6-2 leaving that game as well.
Yeah, no, like I'm in the same agreement here. I have us getting the win here. And honestly, kind of going off that last point you just made there, I wouldn't switch the next 3 games, the order of them, for anything. I think that Vandy's going to be the best game to start with, although they possibly could be the trap game of the 3. I do think that that's the game that we can continue the momentum off of Ole Miss the best off of. We'll go into Florida. We'll beat them. That'll be the road game of the 3. And then we'll go against Auburn, who's on the 3-game losing streak right now. Hopefully they continue the losing streak. All their momentum's gone. Their hearts are broken, and it's just an easy win. Obviously, don't want to roll over on them. But I think we'll get the win at home against them and put us at 6-3. Look, the week after that, we're on the road. We're playing Tennessee. Tennessee's had a good year so far, except until recently against Arkansas. They got the L here. I think that the L there is a little bit more of an anomaly. I think that they can go on and continue to play. I think they have a good roster overall. It's going to be a tough battle. I have us losing that game, putting us at 6-3. Sorry, I think I said 6-3 last time. That put us at 6-2. I have us at going to 6-3 against Tennessee here.
I'm right there with you. This Tennessee offense, first off, just scheme-wise, trying to handle that offense has always been tough for the Cats. We still really haven't, Brad White and this defense really haven't found answers for that. And playing in Neyland Stadium is so tough. I don't like Tennessee. I don't like anything that Tennessee stands for. But Neyland Stadium and the way their fans show out for their home games is something else. I got Kentucky dropping that game, going into 6-3. Tennessee they lost to a good Arkansas team. Arkansas is good. They were at home. It's not a big loss. In college football nowadays, you can afford to lose 1 or 2 games during the regular season, especially if you're in the SEC and still punch your ticket to the playoffs. I think you just saw a Tennessee team that kind of got hit in the mouth and was like, whoa, we're supposed to be one of the best teams. And then they remembered, oh, yeah, we're in the SEC. We play the best teams each and every week. But unfortunately, I do see Kentucky dropping this game, going to 6-3.
Yeah, Cam, I think we can put a pin in the Tennessee game here. I got some comments to make on that at the end once we break down the rest of the schedule here. I think that can alter that game can potentially alter some possibilities for us for later down the stretch here when we talk about playoff potential, ranking potentials, some bowl game opportunities. But we'll continue here. After Tennessee, we come back home. We play Murray State. Let's call a spade here. I hate to do it because I don't want to make another Gamecocks game, but Murray State's been abysmal. They're not even. It's a joke to watch. They have 2 games of being shut out by over 50 points. They got a 72 burger put on them a couple weeks ago. So we'll call a spade. I have us hopefully having a convincing win against Murray State.
Hopefully the Murray State game is just another tune-up for the offense. It's trying things that you're not comfortable doing at Tennessee or against Auburn or against Florida in those SEC contests. You treat that just like you did the Ohio game. Get momentum back on your side. If we both have them losing to Tennessee, get the offense back in check, get the defense back in check, ready for the next week. I got them winning that game as well. 7-3. Everything's still on the table at 7-3. You kind of still hold your own destiny. You still have to play 2 good teams in Texas and Louisville coming up. Not going to say it, but I'm not going to not say it. I'll let you go.
Yeah, look, following that, you hit it. We're going on the road to Texas. And look, I think this is one of those wild card games. I don't think it's a game that's necessarily scratched off just yet. I'm going to make my prediction right now based on recency bias from Texas. They're undefeated. They're ranked number 1 overall at the current moment of this podcast. I have us losing this game and going to 7-4 for the season. But look, I think the real test here for Texas is ahead. They're playing Oklahoma. They're playing Georgia. They play at Vanderbilt. We saw what Vanderbilt just did to Alabama. Look, I'm not saying that Texas isn't the truth right now, but Texas is about to be tested. We're going to see who Texas really is over the next few weeks. I'm inclined to be able to change my opinion here after the next few weeks. I'm not saying it will, but it might. So that's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a wild card game. I'm going to put a pin in that one as well, along with the Tennessee game. But right now, I do have us losing that game, putting us back at 7-4. Who do you got?
I'm going to keep my prediction the same from the offseason. I think Kentucky finds a way to go into Texas and win this game. This is Texas' first year in the SEC. They're not used to those, slug it out week in, week out. Even playing, they say any given Sunday, but in the SEC it's any given Saturday. You saw it happen with Vandy and Alabama. I think Kentucky goes into Texas, finds a way to win that game. I think our defense is going to be what it's been all year, the top 10 defense, keeps us in the game, and then by that point, hopefully the offense has found ways to make explosive plays and keep themselves in the game. I'm not saying that I would bet on it, but I think Texas might just overlook Kentucky with the games that they have before and after us.
I tell you what, Cam, if somehow we end up beating Texas, based on this current conversation, again, things will change in 3 weeks. I'm inclined to make a new decision then. But in this current moment, let's say everything plays out and Texas stays number one throughout the season here, and we go into Texas and we somehow dethrone them. Number one, that will be the second top 10 team we beat this year. And if some reason we are still not ranked, that'll be the second team that we beat that we're not ranked and we beat a ranked team. And God bless it, we better be in the top 15 after that. Jesus. Whew, that'll be some excitement, Cam. We might have to drive back down to Lexington, party it up with our fans.
State Street.
Yeah, we might. I don't see any other reason why we wouldn't be in Lexington at that time. Like we might just have to do it. So
we can take my couch to burn. I'll nominate it as tribute, and I just got it.
Yep, we'll take the Josh Allen helmet. We'll start playing music, start spinning around the speaker with the helmet, acting like a fool. Drinking Kentucky beers. I don't know. That'll be a fun time. So we'll differ with that. You'll have us at 8-3 at the moment. I'll have us at 7-4, and we'll finish the season up going into Louisville. They just lost to SMU and Notre Dame before that. They're playing Virginia. They're playing some tough teams up here. I still have us winning. It's going to be a battle here, but I think we're still going to win. So I think we're going to finish up the season here 8-4 overall. How do you see us wrapping up the season?
The Governor's Cup, it's always a battle. Doesn't matter how good Kentucky is or how bad Louisville is or how good Louisville is and how bad Kentucky is. Last year, Louisville was ranked, I think, 11th when Kentucky played them. And we went into Papa John Stadium or whatever they're calling it now. Who knows? They switch it up so many times. We go in there and we win that game. I don't see any way Kentucky loses that game. This defense is too good. Louisville's offense, it's okay. I mean, it's good enough to beat up on ACC defenses. But again, we play SEC football week in, week out. By that time, this Kentucky team will have faced Texas, Ole Miss, Georgia. You're talking about those teams could all be in the playoff very easily. I don't think Louisville holds much of a chance. The game will be close just because that's how these games are played. And all the games are going to be close with how our offense has been playing at the moment. But Kentucky wins that game. We find a way to go 9-3 in my predictions. And who knows, 9-3 in the SEC with what I had them predicting would be beating Texas, in Texas, Ole Miss, and Oxford. Potential playoff team. Now, granted, right now, I'm riding the high of that Ole Miss game, and we still have to take care of business. I think this next 3-week stretch is going to be the most telling part. If we come out of this 3-week stretch and we're 6-2 and we've looked convincing in the games that we should win, I think all bets are off for this Kentucky team. I don't think you go into Neyland Stadium thinking that game's a blowout. Same thing with Texas. I think all bets are off if Kentucky just handles business. That's all they got to do. Handle business week in, week out, and you control your own destiny.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the way I'm looking at the schedule. First of all, I still think we control our destiny to get into the playoff. It's a 12-team playoff this year. We have a really good schedule ahead of us. We have 2 top 20 ranked teams in the nation, one of them being ranked number 1. If we can somehow beat both those teams, I mean, that's a stretch. I'm saying it's a stretch, but if we can beat both those teams, we'll get, at some point we're going to get ranked in there. And I think both those games combined will put us up in a really good spot to get into the playoff here. I believe it. I think we can do it. Now, realistically, I was talking about those putting the pin into those games there with Tennessee and Texas here. You were optimistic with the Texas game. I think that would be a really good one with us. I'm a big believer in college football. If you lose early, you can make up for it late. If you lose late, you're screwed. If we can somehow beat Tennessee and or Texas, that puts us in a really good spot as well. I don't know if that gets us necessarily into the playoff, but it puts us in a really good ranked spot to end the year. I think that's more of a success than what we started with. I know we came into the season, we lost early, but I think that puts us in a really good spot at the end of the year here. Puts us in contention for some really good bowl games.
If this team goes 10-2, they're in the playoffs. It's a 2-loss SEC team with what you had just said, beating Tennessee and Texas and Ole Miss and losing to Georgia by 1 point. They're easily into the playoffs. So by that standard, yes, they definitely hold their own destiny. But winning out against, especially having Tennessee and Texas both be on the road makes it a little tougher, obviously. College football, the atmosphere means a lot. It's not like the NFL where it's just, a bunch of people just showing up. Occasionally it gets loud. College football at Neyland Stadium and down there in Austin, Texas, that really does matter. It changes a lot more than it does. And if they lose, just find a way to win one of those games. And you're at least you're in the conversation for going into the playoff. And after that South Carolina game, if I would have told you we're in the conversation for the playoffs, I would have pulled that Jim Mora moment from the playoffs. We're talking about the playoffs? I would have done that, yeah. I would have had the jaw dropped wide open. Like, no way this team. But they've turned it around. Give Mark Stoops credit. Usually, we ride momentum either way it goes normally. We either continue a high for a little bit and then a team comes in and humbles us like Georgia typically does, or we just continuously doubt. We just spiral. We haven't done that. We found a way to bounce back. Like I said, just take care of business. That's what you got to worry about this week. It's what you got to worry about next week and the week after. Outside of that, we can start talking about going in and stealing games. But these are the games coming up. Vandy's coming in here trying to steal one against us.
Yeah, let's not let that happen, Cam. I think that there's some positive momentum in. Let's not make this a trap game. Let's go off the positive momentum here. Go throughout the season here. Hopefully get some more wins and make a good playoff push here. Listen, if you're not already signed up to come out to the game on Saturday here, go get your tickets. It's going to be a fun time. The weather looks great. It's going to be 7:45. It's going to be a night game under the lights. You got to be there. Cameron and Tyler are going to be there from the Cats Talk podcast here. We're going to be chanting all day. You're going to want to be there. Drinks are on Cam if we win the game. So let's go, Cats. Come on now. You got to come out. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star. Refer us to your friends. Post it on your social media. Do what you got to do to get the word out there. We're going to be breaking that down. Highlights. We're going to be talking about. We're going to be recapping the games. We're going to be breaking down the rest of the season every single week here. You don't want to miss out. We're going to be posting once a week, every single week for the rest of the season here. Let's go, Cats.
Go Big Blue.